That's right. Hey, everyone, what's going on? Thank you for downloading the old podcast, Retro Gamers. Larry here.
And Anthony here.
What's going on, Ant?
It's another beautiful day in Los Angeles. I think I feel like I'm starting to say that almost every week.
Hey, good.
Just take it. It's always nice here, basically.
As long as you're saying there's no earthquake, you're good to go.
Don't jinx it.
Will do.
And how's New York?
New York is hot as Hades. I mean, it's hot as hell out here. I was just in Atlantic City, which was worse. But yeah, it was just.
How's that Trump Plaza Casino?
I think they're turning it into something else. So, I never been there. So I never been there to begin with.
Probably a halfway house for all those poor unemployed workers.
Oh, there's a few. Trust me, not just the Taj Mahal. There's a few places down there that's like that. I just stay in the Borgata. I call it a day, and then that's it.
That's probably the safe bet.
Yeah, pretty much. So we got kind of a rhythm going here. So we're going to start this show as we start every show. Anthony, a few episodes ago, we were talking about some games, mentioned a good old schooler, Shining Force 2, and then an hour after we were done, he texted me a shot of his television showing that he's playing Shining Force 2. So how are you in Shining Force 2?
Yeah, so this podcast is becoming a bad influence on me because now I'm wasting time playing old video games again, which is actually a good thing, but you know how things are. So I did not have a whole lot of time to play since our last podcast because I've been busy doing my international scavenger hunt, Gishwes.
There you go.
If people don't know what that is, it's the greatest international scavenger hunt the world has ever seen.
Cheap plug.
Started by Misha Collins from Supernatural. And it's just this amazing week where teams of 15 do the wackiest, craziest, weirdest things. And it basically takes up all your time. So I basically spent my week doing that instead of playing Shining Force 2. So
that's all right.
I'm afraid to say that my progress in Shining Force 2 has stalled for this week.
So there is no update this week?
No, there's no update except yesterday I tried playing it for 5 minutes and I got slaughtered immediately in a battle and I shut it off.
Oh, there you go. Oops.
Well, I had to get back to finishing my scavenger hunt anyway, so.
Priorities, my friend.
Yes, and I have many.
There you go.
And none at the same time.
You have any time for going to the movies or anything? Suicide Squad just came out this weekend.
I know. You know what? I just read online it made like $135 million. So you know what? It can wait for my $15.
Honestly, and for a movie that's got what, like 33% on Rotten Tomatoes to make
28 now.
28 now, please.
28.
Give me a break. Rotten Tomatoes is useless.
I like Rotten Tomatoes, and I pay attention to reviews. But if I want to go see something, I'll go see it anyway.
Exactly.
I don't care.
That's why I just go. But speaking of which, I mean, actually, I think there was already an iOS game that came out for Suicide Squad. But it's funny because back in the day, I mean, they used to put almost every movie that came out had some sort of video game tie-in at one point or another.
Yeah, more or less, especially movies that were geared towards a younger audience because they knew that would be the sweet spot because kids play the video games.
Oh, yeah, and PlayStation ran rampant with the type of games, especially with Disney. I'm sure they had some sort of deal because Disney, there were Disney PlayStation video games at all the Toy Stories, Buzz Lightyear, that separate movie. Even, like, those were the first set that came out, I remember. Like on the PS3 when they're doing the PS1 originals, like the first set almost were all Disney movies. It was weird.
Yeah, Disney definitely knew that there was a market for that, and they jumped on it earlier than that. I mean, there were so many games on. There were a lot of games on the NES. Granted, not a lot of movie games I can think of. Mostly, I mean, based on their characters, like Mickey Mouse Capades, DuckTales.
DuckTales was awesome.
Well, DuckTales was great, and obviously, if we're talking about video games based off movies or TV shows, I mean, that one was directly based off, the DuckTales cartoon, and it was like one of the best games ever. I mean, so much so that they remastered it and released it on the 360 not too long ago.
Yeah.
Same thing with Mickey Mousecapade or
Castle of Illusion.
Castle of Illusion. Yeah. Yep. So Disney definitely knew what they were doing. I mean, and also I just read an article just a few days ago that I posted on our Facebook page about the SNES games being released on PC. You can buy them on Steam.
So
it was Aladdin, Lion King, and one other one I can't think of right now.
Tarzan?
No, it was in that same time frame. So I don't know if Little Mermaid or Hercules or something like that, but there were 3 that they released on PC. And I remember because I played Aladdin and I played Lion King, and those were actually 2 really fun games. Super entertaining. I beat them both, of course.
There you go.
Well, if you're going to play a Disney game, play it all the way through.
You got to do it. You got to do it.
You have to. And for Disney, they would also kind of... Those games that were based off their movies were pretty much a retelling of the film.
Oh yeah,
so you would actually go. Yeah, you would go through the beats of the movie as opposed to an individual story not related.
Jungle Book. That was the third game. Jungle Book.
Oh, there you go, Jungle Book. So, but I like the fact that they did stuff like that because it was you going through the steps of the movie, so it was at least relatable.
Yeah.
To you as opposed to a separate adventure.
And of those 3, I thought Aladdin, personally, I thought was the best.
Yeah, Aladdin gets the most praise for it, and I can understand why, because the Genesis version and the SNES version were kind of different, but they were both fantastic. Lion King is my favorite Disney movie of all time, so I have a sweet spot for that one. But I just remember playing the Stampede level in that game, which was awesome, followed by, of course, watching, young Simba with his dead dad always. What a great thing to put in a video game.
and let alone those Disney movies.
well, I mean, Disney movies are notorious for that. We all know that.
But I did see that too. I think that's pretty cool. Just that re-releasing of those games. But what do you remember? Probably the earliest. Well, yeah. Let's just the monkey in the room, or what, a gorilla in the room, elephant in the room, whatever the hell the saying is. E.T. on Atari. Let's just cut to the chase.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, God. Yes, I'm sad to say I did own.
So did I. Totally. Yeah.
I'm sad to say that I still own that game, and I think I may have 2 copies. But I remember getting that because at the time I was maybe 6 years old, 7 years old when I got that game, and I could not figure out what the hell you had to do.
No one knew.
Nobody knew. And then if you go on YouTube today and you look it up and see how to beat it, it takes 5 minutes to beat that game.
Oh, totally.
Ridiculous.
And a lot of the Atari games back then, you just didn't know what to do. You kind of stumbled through it. I mean, there was an Indiana Jones game on the Atari that, God help you, you had to just. It was, and there's no internet. I don't even there wasn't even any magazines telling you what to do.
No,
that was pure trial and error.
Yeah, they drop you in, and then you figure it out. And I don't know, was it? Yeah, it was just crazy. That was the era of video games. I mean, that's why back then video games were better when they were simple, like an Asteroids or a Millipede. It's you can figure out exactly how to play it in the first 30 seconds. Once it started getting a little more complicated, like an E.T., and I understood the concept. They were trying to build off of the adventure game, Haunted House and Adventure and things like that, where it's you have to do these number of things in order to succeed. But the problem is, there was just no way to figure it out.
Yeah, no, but that was, that's the world back then. But then the Nintendo comes out, and one of the first video game based on movies or TV, really, at that point, that I remember, which is one of the best NES games, period, was Batman, based on the original '89 Tim Burton Batman.
That game was awesome.
That game was absolutely phenomenal. Even just for a game itself was amazing. Even though I think he had a gun, which was kind of weird, but be that as it may.
Yeah, but you know what? It was perfectly fine. I mean, a little creative liberty here and there never hurts. And considering the fact that Batman was probably one of the first, if not the first, well-received, comic book movie.
Yes.
To have a game that followed up with it that was, strong, especially when, we sit here and talk about, and we'll talk about a lot of other video games based on movies that just were god-awful translations.
There's more of those than there are good ones, unfortunately.
There definitely are. So for Batman to actually follow through was great. And that wasn't the only one either. There were plenty of other good Batman games.
Oh, there were. There certainly were. But I just remember that game was only 5 levels long, which, going back, reading about it, like watching videos and stuff about it, you forget that it's that short, really, if you think about it.
Well, a lot of games back then were shorter. Yeah. It's just that the difficulty levels were ramped up so much that it would take you forever to get through those 5 levels. So when you finally did it, you had that sense of accomplishment.
There were parts in that game you had no choice but to get hit to get through. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, so
like the gears at the end, near the end of the game, you had the wall jump. Yeah. Remember the wall jump? That was one of the best parts. You just let your wall jump, and you just had no choice. You're going to take a hit from either the gears in the walls or whatever, or the enemies just jumping up, and sometimes you have to sacrifice to win.
Yep, no question about it. It's just just craziness.
Yeah, and Nintendo had their good fair share of games. One of the other ones that was a good one, which has a funny kind of anecdote to it at the end. Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Oh yeah,
that was just a great kind of I wouldn't call it a puzzle game, but just a detective mystery game. Wasn't linear, which always threw me off. But you had to just go around Hollywood and then eventually Toontown, gathering up evidence, eventually to get to Doom and Doom.
Yeah, Judge Doom.
Yeah, Judge Doom.
Judge Doom.
In my head, I'm saying like Dr. Doom. I'm like, nope, wrong game.
No, not Dr. Doom. Wrong universe.
And he was. I mean, Judge Doom was probably one of the most ridiculously hard villains.
Yep.
To figure out how to beat. Once you figured it out, it was actually ended up being a piece of cake. But that game, and what was fun about that game, remember it came with the kind of like the fake magazine, the fake catalog. Well, at some points it was real. I thought I could buy an actual one of those punch holes, like in the movie when he throws it on the wall and puts his hand through it.
Oh, yeah.
But what are your thoughts about Roger Rabbit? That was such a fun game.
But the ride at Disneyland has one of those punch holes.
Oh, really?
Yes, it does. I mean, when I was a kid, I absolutely loved it. And in fact, I mean, if you think about it, Roger Rabbit might have been one of the first quote-unquote open-world games ever on the market. Because, everybody talks about Grand Theft Auto 3 and how that revolutionized the market. It's like, you look at Roger Rabbit, I mean, considering it's an 8-bit game, but it was kind of a pseudo-open world. There was no, to your point, it wasn't linear. You could just walk around to different places until you figured out what you had to do.
Totally.
And I remember playing it as a kid. I absolutely loved it because I loved the movie. I had to get the game, and I thought the game was fun. Now, as an adult, when I tried playing it, because I've gone back and I always go back and try these out, and nostalgia takes over. It's like, oh, I want to play Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and then playing it as an adult, not so fun.
Not the same.
No, it's definitely not the same. It did have a lameness value to it, especially like I forgot how annoying it was to have Eddie wind up his punch before he hits something.
He bounces
and
back
I'm like,
a little bit.
I'm like, to knock the weasels all over the place. I'm like, oh god, I was like, this is such a pain in the butt.
And then having the driving aspect was fun, though. Better in that game than some other games, which we'll get into in a second. Driving around in Benny.
Yes, driving around in Benny was fun, except when you were literally driving in like the middle of nowhere with no idea where to go. There was just like one road going.
There was, nothing. Right? Yeah, I forgot about that. It wasn't even heading to Toontown. It was just, Toontown was blocked off. So
it just it went out to nowhere. Like literally, you went so far out of the way for like I think it was like something in one cave.
Yes,
like you had to go in a cave to get one thing and nothing else. It was it was just weird.
Do you remember at one point in the game, the fake catalog had a phone number on the back that you had to call, and in the game at some point you have to call it to get a clue excuse me, to get a clue to continue on in the game. Now, back then it was a working 800. I think it was an advertisement for something, obviously for Disney.
Well, of course it was.
But I called it, you get the clue. I don't even remember what the clue was, to be honest with you.
Oh, don't ask me.
Yeah. But I don't know if it's literally nowadays, but at one point a company did buy out that 800 number, and it was no longer Disney. It was an adult line that someone ended up buying it for.
I remember that story, which is great. I mean, what better way to tie a children's movie to another franchise than porn?
Just like playing it years later, like, oh, let me play through this, and I'll have to call the 800 number. if you want more, give us your credit card. Like, oh, okay, got to charge more for the game.
Exactly. It's like they're still making money hand over fist.
Hey-o! Now, that game had a fun driving aspect to it. A game on the Nintendo that did not have a fun driving aspect was Dick Tracy.
Oh, yeah.
And which Dick Tracy kind of played, if I remember correctly, because it was a while since I played Dick Tracy. Well, since I played any of these. I think it almost played kind of the same as Roger Rabbit, as far as you had to drive to different buildings, find clues, end up facing enemies. But the driving in Dick Tracy was ridiculous. Like, everything was backwards, and
I remember playing that game, and I probably maybe played it for half an hour tops and said I can't deal with this anymore and stopped.
It was ridiculous. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I go, the controls were like you were flying a plane.
Exactly. That's
like
pretty
down
much what it was
down is up, left is right, and I'm like, no. I was like, no.
You're always constantly getting shot at and stuff. On the road. Like, why do you want to? And you can't block it or anything.
Yeah, it's a shame too because I liked the movie. The movie was good.
The movie was great. No, totally.
Yeah, movie was good. Game, not so much. And speaking of games that weren't so good and we're still on NES, I got a couple that actually I have a trifecta of bad movie games.
Nice.
So I'll go through them and then if we want we can talk about it. So we had Back to the Future.
Ooh.
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oofa.
And now I just forgot the last one. But I'll replace it with Jaws. So I had another one in my head and it fell out of my head. But there was I'm sorry, Ghostbusters. So you got 4.
Oof.
You got the quad of bad games. Those games were just like absolutely awful. Maybe we shouldn't focus on them too much, but just the whole idea of Back to the Future game was absolutely obnoxious. You were walking down streets most of the time, dodging bowling balls and bees. And
it had nothing to do with the movie.
Glass and hula hoop girls and
barely anything to do with the movie.
No, I mean the only thing that had anything to do with the movie were after you got through the street levels, you would get to a location from the movie, and then you would do something. So you would get to the diner, and you were throwing root beers at Biff. So
when did that happen in the movie?
It does. It's just so you don't get it. Just so he doesn't get to the counter and hit you. And then if he hits you, you go back to the street level, and then you have to go back to the to get back to the diner to
remember
do
the music.
Yeah,
and it looped. That was the only loop in the game.
And then there was the wait. Then I was going to get to a really good part. The creep value of Marty trying to block Lorraine's kisses.
Oh yeah.
So she doesn't come up and make out with him. And of course, in the movie, that's his mom.
Well, if you go back and listen, I mean, that was a whole problem with the movie to begin with in distribution. But yeah, no, that game was just nothing to do with Back to the Future. And it's funny you say that. I'm looking at a shadow box piece I bought offline of Back to the Future. It has the game sitting in it. But yeah, it's just a great movie, horrible game. Another great movie, bad game, like you mentioned, Bill and Ted.
Oh God,
had that 3/4 aspect of what you want to call. No, not that. It had the corner aspects or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it was like a 3/4 angle.
Yeah, you had to. From what I remember, you go to different time periods, one at a time. I don't think you jump around.
Yeah,
and
you go
have
one
to
at a time.
Collect. I think pieces. Was it pieces of the phone book or pieces of the phone booth?
You had to collect significant pieces from history, and then return them to their rightful owners.
And the worst part about it was sometimes they'd be in spots that it was random, I think, and then they'd be in spots that you wouldn't expect. Like you have to jump over a bush or something. Then all of a sudden the thing pops up out of nowhere.
Yeah, but it wasn't even. You didn't jump over a bush. You jumped into them and crashed.
That's right.
So
yes.
So basically, you spent your entire time jumping into things and falling on your ass and waiting to see if you found this thing. And there was no hint at where it could possibly be. So you're basically spending your entire time jumping around and crashing into things on a board. And on an NES game, it's because it's so simple, it was just completely obnoxious.
And like I said, I think the spot of the pieces changed every time you started up the game.
Yeah, so it wasn't. Yeah, the inconsistent, just the random nature of it just made it even more difficult. So,
Jaws, again, great movie, classic, but that All right, hold on. Let's put this into perspective.
I beat that game so many times as a kid.
Oh, it's a quick game to beat, but I didn't mind as much the underwater part. Once you're underwater as a scuba diver, or eventually when you get the submarine, and yes, it was only the one screen. You don't move on, but still, that part wasn't bad. But just when you have to, because you have to go from basically when you start off, you're in a yacht, and there's the overhead view of the bay, and you have to go from one port pretty much across to the other port and just back and forth. That's all you did. But every time you move, like in a Final Fantasy or role-playing game, when you start driving on the water, eventually you hit something. And then the game stops, then you jump in the water. But sometimes it happens...
And it tells you exactly that. It says, you've hit something.
But it usually happens like, all right, you just completed a level, let's get in the boat. Literally like a pixel or two, you move up and wham, you hit something and you go over it again.
Yep. Or all of a sudden it tells you, you've hit Jaws.
Yeah, like the first thing in the game.
It's like, you've hit Jaws. It's like, there's no fin sticking out, nothing. All of a sudden it's like, you've hit Jaws. I'm like, great, I'm dead.
So, and then the final... Once you finally get enough power, because that's the whole thing, you have to build up power to be able to fight. Because you can fight Jaws right off the bat, but you do no damage to him. Then the final part is you got to get him to jump up out of the water and then spear him with the yacht.
From first-person perspective.
Yes. And it was very difficult sometimes, at times. If you didn't if you didn't get it right, it wasn't working.
I stabbed him many, many, many times, mostly in protest of that fourth movie that the game was based off of.
And what was that fourth movie you were talking about again?
Jaws 4, The Revenge.
No. I meant of the four, the quadrilogy here.
Ghostbusters.
Oh, God, Ghostbusters!
Yes, when you're walking around a city as the Ghostbusters symbol, and then going into apartment buildings that were blinking red, only to drive down the street, hit things and lose your energy, and then
and then you had to buy the power ups or the ghost food or the souped up
the traps,
up traps and everything.
The vacuum that went on top of your car. The ghost.
It's funny you say that, how you had to be the logo, because the logo was just always that. It was just a logo. So in the game, they figured they incorporate the logo. And this is going to be, I'm throwing it out right now, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie, so mute this for a little while. Have you seen the new Ghostbusters? Just a quick segue. And I'm not going to get into it in detail because I'll destroy it. But
I have not seen it.
Okay, do you care about something that happens at the end?
I will, because I'm going to go see it.
All right, then. I will wait and hear for your response. In any event.
Yeah. No spoiling movies.
Okay, no problem. I was just going to check because...
But I hear there are ghosts.
Movie's atrocious. All right, let's get back to the matter at hand. But yeah, Ghostbusters. And then finally, when you get enough point... I forgot... At one point, eventually... all the ecto power or something in Spook Central... And then you go to fight Zool, and then you got to walk up the stairs, which I think you got to walk up literally like 22 levels or something.
Was it 22? I felt like all 100.
Yeah, maybe. But the thing is, there's like 3 or 4 ghosts in the
stairs.
Yeah, thank you. Stairwell. That's what I was looking for. And there's 3 Ghostbusters, and you get touched even a little bit, and it's over. And you have 3 lives. Good luck getting to the 2nd or 3rd floor, let alone 15th or 16th, wherever you got to go.
Yep.
It was so ridiculous.
It was absolutely obnoxious.
But
the only thing I liked about that game is when Stay Puft Marshmallow Man would show up and stomp down a building. That was the only good part.
No one steps on a church in his town. Let me ask you this.
He did.
Did you know, and I just found this out recently, and it was based on when I was watching a video from Cinemassacre, the guys who do Angry Video Game Nerd. There's kind of a cheat or glitch in the Ghostbusters game during that stairwell level that pretty much gives you unlimited power.
Yes, I did.
You did hear about that? Yeah,
yes, I did.
It's weird. You got to get hit like twice or something. You got to open up a door at the same time you're getting hit. It took them a while to finally, because they play live, it took them a while to finally get it, but it worked, and then they just breezed on up, took care of Zool. I mean, I think they weren't invincible against Zool, but...
Yeah, but when you have to resort to a glitch, I mean, is it even worth playing anymore?
Listen, glitch versus code. We'll get into that at another time.
Yeah, let's why don't we switch over to a game that was actually good for a change? Which means I'm going to have to skip over Friday the 13th.
Oh.
Even though I liked it. And Nightmare on Elm Street, which I would love to talk about also. That was I enjoyed that game. No, I don't think anybody else did.
Horror games on the NES, that always seems weird to me.
Why? I mean, horror games were pretty much... they were fairly popular. I mean, I remember if you go back even before NES, Commodore 64 had a Nightmare on Elm Street game, had a Friday the 13th game.
No.
Atari had a Halloween game.
Yes, well, but I'm talking just NES. It always seemed weird for the NES to have like a horror game like
because
that.
Because of kids?
No, not just kids. It's just Nintendo. You know, it's kind of like usually not when you think Nintendo, then, you don't think that.
Yeah. Back then, I think the industry was so young that they were just accepting any type of third party. So I think that's why it was okay. I mean, nowadays, you don't really see that many horror games on an NES on a Nintendo system.
Yeah.
So,
but what game were you gonna talk about?
No, I was just suggesting we switch over to something.
Oh, I thought you had one in mind.
We were talking about bad ones for so long. I'm like, you know what? Why don't we switch to something decent? And now I'm like, wait, now I got to think of one.
Those are usually the best ones. I'm just gonna, just rifling off some of the ones that I've owned. And these made like Nintendo, Super Nintendo. We'll kind of get through these. The Home Alone, and Home Alone 2. On the systems.
You're considering those good games?
No, I'm just considering them games. Karate Kid.
I mean,
that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to find a good game.
I mean, we can list bad games left and right. Yeah, I still have the Karate Kid game. My God, that game was awful. Jeez, I remember the hurricane level. What a pain in the butt.
Actually, we've been doing a lot of movies. Let's talk about TV shows. And this one was, I would consider well, it's borderline, I guess. When we're talking Xbox, like the Buffy games.
Oh yeah, the first Buffy game was fantastic.
Yep. We're gonna jump ahead a lot to the Xbox, but yeah, no, that game was great.
Yeah, absolutely love that game. The sequel, Chaos Bleeds, was a little bit weaker, and that's because I believe they had switched companies. So I don't remember who did the first one, but I remember Vivendi did the second one, and they tried to expand on it, but it just wasn't as strong as the first one. The first one, though, on the other hand, absolute start to finish, fantastic game,
great movie. Great game.
Yeah, great game. Played through it at least twice. And it just had a great original story to it, so it felt like you were playing through an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
How about remember Spider-Man on the PlayStation 1? Not based on the movie, based on like the comic book Spider-Man. It was the first one on the PlayStation.
No, I don't remember that one.
That was a good game.
No, I remember the movie one.
Was that based?
And the movie? I didn't think the movie one was that bad.
No, the movie wasn't bad at all.
No. Yeah, I didn't think the movie game was that bad.
No, this one wasn't based on the game. Okay, based on the movie. Yeah, no, this was Activision.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I do remember, if we're bouncing around a bit more, the Batman the Animated Series game for Super Nintendo was one of my favorites. The Adventures of Batman and Robin.
Yes, classic. Oh,
that Joker level, and just the first level with the Joker was awesome, and I remember always getting stumped on the Riddler level, because you were going through a maze and you needed to solve riddles, and for God's sakes, I could not remember.
Is that the Minotaur? With
I think so.
Yeah, that game was great. I had it on. Did I have it on Genesis? No, I had it on Super Nintendo.
I may still have it, and absolutely, phenomenal game.
That game was great.
It's just it looked exactly like the TV show. Well done, top to bottom. Loved it.
Remember the Super Star Wars trilogy on Super Nintendo?
Yes, I do remember that. Yep. I did not own them though.
Actually, I got Super Star Wars actually available on the Virtual Console on the Wii. So I downloaded that. I played that a little bit. And I never played it originally. Don't get me wrong. That was definitely later on. I even downloaded a Indiana Jones game on the Super Nintendo, which I don't ever remember coming out.
Oh, wasn't that the was it the Temple of Doom, or was it Raiders of the Lost Ark? I remember playing an Indiana Jones game.
Yeah, maybe Last Crusade actually.
I remember Last Crusade on NES.
Oh God,
not Super Nintendo. I remember the one on NES, and I actually enjoyed that, but that was mostly because I enjoyed the movie so much.
Well, actually, technically, it was Indiana Jones' Greatest Adventures, which I think incorporated a little bit of everything into it. So, but those games were great.
I'm trying to think of ones that were from the PlayStation era. I'm stuck on all the old stuff, but I'm like,
but some of it's good. The old Top Gun. I mean, come on, how can we? I'm ashamed that we're mentioning Top Gun at this point on Nintendo.
Top Gun. What, Top Gun on NES was a horrible game.
Oh, come on. That was the landing part not as much fun.
The landing part was impossible. The refueling was impossible.
Oh, the refueling.
I mean, any level that involved you refueling, that's where I died. I think it was level 3. I always died at level 3 because I could not refuel.
Top Gun, one of the few games my dad would actually play on the Nintendo. There was 2 games that he played. That and Dr. Mario. But it was great with landing.
I remember my dad playing that too.
It was a great game. Top Gun 2, not so much.
Did not see that. I remember playing Goonies 2.
Oh, yes.
On NES, and that was a weird one because you go through the game saving all your friends, and that's great. And then the last friend that you save is Andy, and she turns out to be a friggin' mermaid. And I'm like, I go, when did she become a mermaid? And who thought that up? Fun game, though. I enjoyed that game.
Oh, totally. I remember the Die Hard series. There was one, not really series, but there was one on Nintendo, which was pretty interesting for a Nintendo game. I never really played the one on PlayStation. That one I never really played. Which one? Did you play the one on PlayStation?
The PlayStation one the PlayStation one I loved. It was really cool because every level was a level in Nakatomi Plaza that you needed to go up, and it was, if I remember, it was close to an overhead, not fully overhead, but it was like kind of higher, and it was really, really cool. You basically run through the levels, trying to kill all the terrorists on the level, and then before you moved up to the next one. And I just remember every level you would complete, John McClane would say yippee-ki-yay as you went up to the next level.
In the Nintendo version, the NES version, what I thought was pretty interesting was you play through the level, and then, because remember, you're barefoot in the game. So for the Nintendo version, you have a regular health meter, and then you have like a foot meter. Because sometimes the bad guys or yourself would shoot out the glass, and if you end up walking over it, that actually hurts your feet meter, and then I think even slowed you down in the game. I'm not sure. It's actually, for a Nintendo game, I thought it was pretty ingenious to think of something like that.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the nuances in games are the things you remember the most. So, and that would be one of them.
Yeah, and then I don't, because the PlayStation, the PS1, put out so many video game, movies based on video games that the PS1 got watered down with them, in my opinion.
Did it?
I think it did. They came out a little
doing a bunch, but I don't remember it being overwhelming.
I do, because it was just, like I said, Disney was always putting them out, and I don't know. I just remember just like you turn it around and you see everything from like all the Disney movies. I just had it in my head and it just dropped out. Gosh darn it. The hell was that? Independence Day was on there. Good movie.
I owned that game.
I wasn't crazy about the game.
It was not a good game. No, it was not a good game.
So, and but for video game, for movies based on video games, almost like for video games based on movies, almost like movies based on video games, the transition it was always worse than better, but every once in a while you're able to pick out some gems.
And I think the issue with video games based on movies is what happens is the video game companies get the material, and I think they get the material late, so they don't have the this is just a guess on my part, but I don't think they have the same amount of time to develop a video game for a movie than they do for any other game.
Yeah. And they want to rush it out.
And not only that, they have a set deadline. Like,
exactly.
The game has to come out when the movie comes out, regardless of how far along you are. So I just feel like that hinders the creation process.
Oh, totally.
And then you're just, and that's why like so many games that come out based on movies are like subpar. And unfortunately, it's something we just have to live with.
For all this time.
Or stop buying them.
Yeah, that's true too.
You just stop buying them. I mean, I remember when I bought what was a game that just popped in my head? The Lego Lego is later down the line. Lord of the Rings for Super Nintendo.
There was a Lord of the Rings game for Super Nintendo?
Yes, there was a Lord of the Rings game for Super Nintendo, and it was awful.
Wow, I don't remember that.
That's why you don't remember it.
Holy
it was
cow.
Awful. Yeah, it was awful. It was just terrible game.
I just pulled up, and this is just to tell you about the influx of movie games. I just pulled, and this is right off of Wikipedia, a complete list of PlayStation games. 101 Dalmatians, 102 Dalmatians.
Oh, God.
Let's see, it's in alphabetical order, but I'm just going to just jump around here.
Yeah, name ones that mattered.
Yeah, asterisk. No, that's not going to matter. Let's see. Barbie. Batman and Robin. Oh, God. The first Batman game, again, awesome, but like those later Batman games, like Batman Forever, Batman and Robin on PlayStation, those were tough.
How about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
I was hoping you would have remembered that one. Yeah, that's one we like to talk about each week.
Oh yeah, well, far be it from me to not mention Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Buzz Lightyear.
But I actually enjoyed the Super Nintendo game of Power Rangers. The only problem I had with it was you could beat it in 20 minutes.
When you get that good with it, you know what I mean?
Well, no. I mean, when you beat it 20 minutes after you unwrap the thing, it's a problem. It's a bit of a problem.
How about the video game based on the movie, based on the video game? Street Fighter, the movie, the game.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I bet you... I never played it, thankfully, because, I saw the movie. But maybe the video... I would assume the video game was better than the movie, only because it was just a regular fighting game.
It was a regular fighting game with the actors scanned into the game, kind of like Mortal Kombat.
Oh, so I bet it was a better game.
Not so much. It's just weird playing Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Raul Julia.
Especially after Raul Julia.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was a little bit weird.
I think I played it at Funtime. Funtime had it.
Oh, God, Funtime. I remember Funtime.
But, those, as we're getting ready to wrap this all up here, there was definitely a lot of good stuff. I know we're missing a bunch. I'm just thinking of the ones that I used to play often.
Well, it's just the things that it's just, whatever. The ones that pop in your head that you remember fondly either fondly or, the opposite way when you absolutely hated it. Those are the ones that are fun to talk about.
Yeah. South Park games, those are a little rough on PlayStation. Even on N64.
I remember the N64 one was fun because you got to beat the crap out of your friends, and that was always good type of stuff. I'm trying to think of what other ones. Well, of course, N64 had GoldenEye, and GoldenEye was probably
how do we forget GoldenEye?
Yeah, GoldenEye was one of the most successful video games on that system.
One of the best games ever, even holds up today, and that was another game. Sometimes I talk about games getting me through college. That definitely killed some time in college with that. So that 4-player, it's kind of one of the first really good, in my opinion, multiplayer games, to play with friends. That game rocked. I know they redid it on the Wii, which holds up, but it's not like the original. So
it's just not the same. Yeah. I don't know if this counts. That's probably no, it doesn't count. Never mind. Moving on. I'm trying to think of other games, but I'm thinking of TV like Transformers and G.I. Joe, like they all had video games.
Well, G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe on NES rocked.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but none of them were ridiculously memorable.
I thought G.I. Joe, the first one, second one stunk. On Nintendo.
I mean, G.I. Joe was awesome. Okay. Transformers were not.
Which
is a shame considering the concept. I mean, that's like. That cartoon is made for video games.
A Transformers game didn't hit its stride really until recently, in my opinion. Like when Transformers Devastation came out. That was like the first really good Transformers game.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate because there are those shows and stuff that would have benefited from really good games.
Yeah, no doubt.
They just didn't.
Oh well.
Yeah, wah.
Well, with that, I think we'll start to wrap everything up here.
Well, no, wait. No, we can't wrap things up yet because we haven't talked about one specific game.
Which one?
I'm sure it was one of your favorite movie games ever. It was, everybody remembers this movie just as fondly as well, but Kevin Costner's Waterworld for Virtual,
Virtual Boy. It's called
Virtual Boy.
Mention it every week. How could you forget?
No, I mean, I know. I don't know why I'm forgetting it this week. I had a brain fart, but far be it from me to pass up the opportunity to ream you one more time about the awfulness of the Virtual Boy.
Never.
But did you have Waterworld?
No. It was one of the few games I did not buy. That one was a tough one to find.
I don't believe you.
Never even saw. To be honest with you, I never saw the movie.
Neither did I.
So.
But regardless of that, I'm sure it sucked because Virtual Boy sucked and you suck for owning one. So
Virtual Boy rolled.
I'm just going to be direct.
And speaking of Virtual Boy, I'm sure I'm going to see Virtual Boys and Virtual Boy games. Let me rephrase that. I'm going to see Virtual Boy systems and virtual games this weekend as I go to the The Long Island, out here by me, living on Long Island, is the Long Island Retro Video Game Expo out in Hop Hog. I'll be hitting up, and I'll be taking some photos, some videos, what's out there. I'll post them up on the Facebook page. And
yeah, please do not post any pictures of virtual boys, please.
Well, if there's multiple systems, I will post them up together. But all joking aside, this I'm really looking forward to, because last year was great. There was some old games, some of which we mentioned here. I saw a Batman last year in the original box. Wow. It really wasn't that bad. I think it was like $40, which is not bad. My
friend a couple of weeks ago actually gave me a Friday the 13th NES game in its original box.
Wow, there you go.
Yep,
that's awesome. A lot of old school systems for sale as well. Last year was great. This year it's supposed to be bigger and better. So I will report on that next week. Definitely.
Please do, and buy me stuff.
Maybe. Hey, last year I was texting you. I remember.
Show anything that you think I would be interested in. Let me know.
I'll keep you in the loop. Definitely. I'm now looking forward, because when we talked recently off air, I'm trying to find a pro wrestling for NES. I'm going to try and find that, just the cart, and because I don't have the system right now, and really that's the one right now that I'll walk away with if I can find. Unless I see something else like the $900 Ms. Pac-Man arcade.
Well, no, the other thing you need to buy is an NES, because how can we do a retro gaming podcast if you do not own an NES?
Well, I have the virtual consoles, and I'm waiting for the mini NES.
Blah blah blah. Get an NES,
and I'll be playing Castlevania 2 as soon as you're done with Shining Force 2.
Oh, is that what we're doing?
Yes, remember we talked about that last time.
Oh, that's right. All right, yeah. So now I have more incentive to finish that game quickly, so you can go through Castlevania 2.
That's it. I think we have to. Each one has to find a game and just.
So I think we'll alternate back.
Exactly.
And forth.
Exactly.
That'd be awesome.
Listen, if I can find out how to plug in my stupid Wii into the to Twitch or something, you don't watch me play this horrible game slowly.
I think I can safely say that nobody's going to do that.
I think people will watch. And on that note, let's get ready to wrap this all up. So like I said, next week I'll report on the live from the Retro Video Game Expo, whatever. But with that being said, follow us. Remember, Facebook, Retro Gamers Podcast, Larry here at More365.
And Anthony here at Matsusu28.
There we go.
It's spelled exactly as it sounds.
And with that, thank you, folks. We'll catch you on the other side.